Righto legends, today we're going to be banging this dual battery setup in the old Hilux to accommodate a little bit more power for some more advantage. So I've just got the best kit money could buy, the old King set. We'll see how it goes. I mean, other people use them, they must be okay. And just the old eBay mountain kit. So let's check it out. The battery's going to sit in here somewhere, so we're going to have to move a couple of these things out of the way to make some room. But yeah, it should be a pretty easy install, hopefully. Let's get into it. Pretty sure that just snapped off. Oh no. Hey, finally one that didn't snap. Right, so the issue I'm having is this module here is supposed to go in these 4 holes that are on the bracket. It's a bit hard to see, those 4 holes there. But with the length of wires on there, they don't reach to any orientation to mount up to that. So I think what I'm going to do is just find where it sits pretty sweet here, nice and level, and then drill a couple of new holes in it and just run it like that. I mean, maybe there's a way you can get this to mount. I'm not going to pull apart the wiring harness. I'm not going to do anything that extreme. But we're just going to run with that. That'll get the job done. It's not too hard to drill a couple of holes, so. Righto, so that's our 2 new holes there, so we can mount that module down a lot lower. While I'm in here, I might knock the ends of these bolts off, just so they don't get caught on anything in there. They're a lot longer than they need to be. This thing's certainly a tight fit and taking full advantage of the space it's got there in its design. And of course you want to get as big battery in as you can. This kit does mount up super secure. It'd be awesome if you had all the original bolts that go in the original bolt holes. It's a well-designed kit for 50 or 60 bucks or whatever it was. It's not worth building one yourself. Unfortunately, my bolts are pretty broken, so the old tech screws to the rescue there. I'll try and screw this module up here off to the side, but as you'll see a little bit later on, there just isn't clearance. So I take it off and I tuck it down in beside the tray and under the wire in there, and it fits in there pretty well. Now, I certainly had a workout lifting this battery in and out so many times. Hopefully after you've watched this video, you won't have to do it as many times as I did. We've got the battery tray in and the battery. I have to say, quite a bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be, but we got her in there in the end. Got as many mounting bolts in as we could that were supposed to be in there. I've had to chuck a couple of screws in because a few did snap off, unfortunately, but it's in there and it's really solid. I'm not concerned about that going anywhere. Right, so something we definitely overlooked. I've gone to put this battery clamp on, and of course, the little hook can't come through because that's where we've mounted that module. So I'm just going to drill a new hole a little bit further up, just above that module. There's enough threaded rod on here that I can just cut this off a bit shorter and have it sitting up a bit higher on this side. So hopefully that works. Now you got to be super careful of this plug when you're putting the battery in and out. Right, now I've just got to remember to cut that off before I shut the bonnet, but we'll get back to that later. Got to mount the control box somewhere. Probably the best place to mount it's going to be down here. So, no, it means I've got to take this panel out again. Pain in the ass, but better to get it in a good spot. So I've just taken the back cover off and put that there to stencil around where it bolts on. So mark that. I'm going to pull this battery back out, hopefully for the last time. And yeah, pull this panel off, drill these 4 holes so we can get that mounted up nice and tight. Righto, cobbers. Check this out. I've just been reading the instructions on the old King's isolator mount. And it says, you know, 2 bolts in here, 2 bolts in here to mount it and sandwich it together. This is what they give you. The 4 stainless screws in varying lengths and types. So they're obviously not going to be any good to mount it because they're just going to shear off. I wouldn't use them. I wouldn't trust them. Also, I've noticed I've busted this open like you're supposed to, and there's 2 nuts on this one. This one's I don't know if it's missing the nut or they've just resined it in, but anyway, I'm a nut short. I think they've just resined it in, so I'll try and break that one free because I don't think I've got one that size. Just put the wires in and mount it all together. I know they've got it so you can only use 2 bolts if you're going to do that, but I've got a couple of long bolts here. I keep a few bolts in the shed, so we'll just run them through, or back this way probably out of the battery tray. Try and get a washer and a nut on there, some way to secure it, because the way they suggest it's just stupid. It's not going to work, especially for us. I don't think it'll be secure enough. Well, for what we're going to do anyway in this Hilux. Now I just had to drill these holes out a little bit bigger because they weren't quite big enough for these heavy duty bolts to go through. Right, legends, this is where we're up to. I managed to get that nut free. So I've just wired them up opposite here. I don't want them touching each other. They sort of fit out these little breakaway pieces. Got the earth coming out there. And I've gone ahead and written start on it, because once this is bolted on, you're not going to know which one's which. Hopefully it all mounts up good, because I'm sick of pulling that side trail. Make sure you leave a bit of a gap between these. I'm not quite sure on how good the insulation is, judging by the quality of everything else so far. Got it all bolted on now. I had to run a wire at either end because it's going to hit that other little module we mounted earlier. Got the earth wire here. I don't know where it's going yet. We'll find somewhere to jam it. Hopefully I'm putting this back in for the last time. I drilled a couple of extra holes over here just so we can tie the cables up nice and neat. This is just a big loop. It's a little bit unclear in the instructions, but you just want to mount this up and then see how much wire you need and cut it to suit. So we're not going to need very much because we're right next to the original battery, but I've just left it really long, you know, just in case. I don't want to go cutting it short because that's a real pain in the ass. So we'll mount this back up and we'll see how much cable we need and start cutting it off. Right, now which one says start on it? This one. Now I want to try and run this wiring as neatly as possible, so I'm running it back along the firewall and around the back of this battery tray and the main battery. This one goes onto the positive of the auxiliary battery, and then we'll have an earth we've got to run off somewhere. Right, so this battery tray mounting bolt's going in a factory bolt hole. We put that in earlier. It's quite a long bolt, so I'm going to use that as our earth point. Straight back to the body. It's as good as it's going to get, other than running to the main body one here that's a bit shoddy looking anyway, but it's going to run it to there. We've got plenty of room for that, so we'll get on and do that. Don't forget this little earth as well. We've got to do it too. If you don't have a set of these Nava wire strippers, I highly recommend them. Strip off a little bit more wire. Double it over. Push it up in there so you can just see it. And then you got the little spike there for crushing them. You can use other things, but that's the right tool for the job, and I'm a big believer in the right tool for the job. Right, so we're at the point where we've got to put our terminal on here, our connection, this guy. So you really should solder these on, but I'm just going to crimp them this time and we'll see how it goes. So you got to strip the wire off. You can use a knife or whatever you got on hand. Right, got that copper exposed. I'm going to put your heat shrink on. Give it a little twist up. Right, that's how that should look. You want to crush them. Crush it down tight. You can use a pin punch or heaps of different things. I've got a set of these. DeWalt double jointed pliers. Did a review on them pretty early on in my YouTube channel, so if you want to check them out in a bit more detail, have a look at that. I'm pretty sure these are about to crush them well enough. Yeah, so look at that. It's crushed it nearly completely flat. It's on there fairly secure. It's not like there's going to be anything pulling on it anyway. I'll put a little bit of shrink wrap on.
Right, that one's done.
I just done the cord onto the main battery exactly the same way.
I will say Kings has supplied solid brass terminals, 3 of them too if you want to replace this guy. So that's definitely a thumbs up to Kings. I know a few of these things have been a little bit dodgy so far, not quite the way I'd like them, but definitely some decent battery terminals. Not the heavy dutiest of ones, but certainly good enough for the job we're doing. A little bit concerned about the height of this with the bonnet, but you know, this kit was designed to go here. Right, so my main terminals are solid brass ones, a lot heavier duty, but they're nearly at the end of their days. I think we're going to replace them both together, so I'm not going to worry about chucking the Kings one on here. So I'm just going to tee in. The only accessories this car's got at the moment is a couple of spotties on it, so no big deal. Anything else I'll wire up, and trust me, there'll be more things will be getting wired off this bad boy just in case. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to run this original one. I'm going to take the negative off before we tee into it, and then we'll chuck the power on, and we should be good to go.
Now you should always take the negative off when you wire new things into the positive, just in case anything shorts here.
Right, so the bolt on the original terminal is not gonna fit through this hole, so a little bit dodgy. But what you can do is just snip here, break that, and then bend these open a little bit, so you don't need to go much bigger, and that bolt should fit through there then.
And just zip tie up any loose wires to stop them getting caught on things.
Righto, legends. I bet you thought I'd forget to cut that off. Anyway, that's it all mounted up. Just got to hit the key, see if everything works. Don't have a voltmeter for the secondary battery. I don't even have one for the main battery. That'll be another video. I'll order some of them and we'll chuck some of them in the car, find somewhere to fit them and mount them up. That way we can make sure this is doing its job. Hit the key and we'll see what happens.
It smells like paint in here for some reason. Not a good sign. Oh well, it started, it's running. I can't see any smoke coming out of the engine bay. Will it sit here in neutral? It's not rolling down the hill, we'll go for a look. Right, well, I can't see if there's a light on or not. It's that secondary battery's probably pretty flat. It's been sitting in the shed for a long time. It's what I used to operate the little crane in here. So, I don't know. I'll try and find a voltmeter and chuck on there to see if it's worked, but I think everything's wired up properly. So, yeah, hopefully it's good. Like I said, we'll get some voltmeters and try it out. But, yeah guys, probably about, I don't know, 3 hours. That kit didn't quite fit the way I thought it was going to. I thought it was going to be a direct bolt in. I couldn't figure it out, so I've cut it and drilled holes in it and all that kind of crap. But we've got it to work anyway. The Kings kit, it wasn't too bad as long as the thing works. You know, it's pretty good for the money, I'd say. I'd rate it, but I'll do a review video after a couple of months. I might put it through a few potholes and we'll see if it still works. But yeah, overall pretty easy to do yourself. Don't need too many tools. Well, a drill and a grinder certainly come in handy for me today. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Subscribe to the channel to see a bit more Hilux stuff and a bit more outdoors adventures, you know, whatever I get up to. Righto, catch us. Righto guys, I've just finished filming my installation of a dual battery system on the old N70 Hilux back there. And while I was doing it, the postman rocked up. So, if you've been following along, we've painted the interior, we've dressed it up a little bit of cosmetic stuff. We've done the dual battery system, you know, very practical if you're going to be running accessories, all that sort of stuff. And see what the postman brought. A little bit of a sneak peek, but I'll tell you what, the Hilux is about to get some wank factor.